Hey guys! So today we're going to start in on the colorful reptile series. In this series, I'm taking color inspiration from nature. To begin this project, I took images of colorful reptiles and used an online color picking tool to grab colors from the photo. I will use these color palettes as a guide when mixing my acrylic paint colors. Once the colors are mixed, we'll use them to create beautiful nature-inspired acrylic paint pouring art. Today I'm mixing and using the color palette I chose for the Jeweled Chameleon. I've always loved the lacing effect you can achieve in acrylic pours. It typically reminds me of scales. This series has been on my mind for a while. I knew that I wanted to work with nature-inspired palettes, but narrowing it down was harder than it should have been. I landed on a few different chameleons to start out with. These guys are incredibly colorful and give tons of shades to choose from. I chose the photos that I wanted to use, and then I picked around 12 colors from each photo. From there, I mixed 8 colors to match up. In the past few videos, I've introduced the idea of using online color palettes to come up with new color combinations for your acrylic pours. They're a great way to see how colors will look next to each other. A quick image search will bring up thousands of choices. I prefer the color palettes that come directly from an image. These allow me to see what the colors would look like together naturally. In addition to finding tons of pre-made color palettes, you can find websites that will allow you to upload a photo and use a picking tool to choose the colors. Most that I have come across will then let you export that palette to save. I took a photo of the Jeweled Chameleon and chose the colors that I like best from it. I put the photo collage together so I could have them all in one place while I mix. Now guys, I want to stress again, you do not have to be an expert on color theory to get started making your own colors. Just start mixing. If you need to, have a color wheel nearby to check out if you're unsure of how colors might interact with each other. When I mix acrylic paint to try to match a color palette, I'm not going for perfect. I'm going for close enough. The more you mix, the more you'll get the hang of what colors to use. Having a lot of paint colors to choose from to start with is definitely a big help when trying to match a palette. If you aren't quite as stocked as I am though, don't let it discourage you. Experiment with the colors you do have. I did a series on color mixing with mica and interference that touches a bit on color theory. If you'd like to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description. There are a few colors that I mixed during this session that I set to the side. If I happen to mix a color that doesn't quite match what I'm going for, I'll try and save it for another palette. As long as the color you're mixing doesn't end in mud, set it to the side and see if you can find another use for it. I've found that pretty much any color can have a use in some way. I chose not to use any mica or interference in this series. I usually like to sparkle it up, but I wanted to focus more on the colors for this project. I did mix up some gold cell activator to use though, so I couldn't stay too far away. My way of mixing colors is not for everyone. I'm pretty relaxed when it comes to keeping up with exactly how I mixed a certain color. I only go so far as to writing down the colors I used for each mix. If you would like to take a more systematic approach, I recommend grabbing a notebook to keep a color diary. Grab a mixed media or other thick papered notebook so you can keep swatches of the colors. You can then write the colors you used and in what ratios next to it for the next time you want to recreate it. Ratios can be as general or as exact as you need them to be. I've attempted to keep color diaries, but I enjoy the ever-changing color palette that I get when I just mix by sight. I'm running a bit low on medium-sized canvases, so today I'm working on a 12 by 24 canvas. Not huge, but it is a scale up from what you normally see me working with. I've also been running into a few issues with my base paint getting thick. I use the Valspar 2000 in high hide white most of the time. I started thinning it with Floetrol, but I may not have gotten this batch quite thin enough. There were a couple of cracks after it was dry. Luckily, most of them are pretty easily fixed by painting them in. I haven't run into the cracking issue since thinning the base paint further. In case you're new to the channel, I wanted to go over my pouring medium and the cell activator mixes. For this type of pour, you're using a combination of house and acrylic paints. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using Valspar 2000 in high hide white as my base paint on the canvas. The pouring medium for the colors is a 3-to-1 combination of Valspar's Signature Semi-Gloss Base C and Minwax Polyacrylic in Gloss. This is the paint that you would take to the counter at the home improvement store for them to add in the colors and shake to match the swatches offered. For this pouring medium, you want just the base. Do not add in the color at the store. Base C or 3 work the best for mixing in the colors. In store, they're typically used for darker shades of colors as they do not have as much titanium white added in. Lower base numbers have a higher concentration of titanium white. To achieve the purest colors, go with a base 3 or, if you can find it, 4. The 3-to-1 is a starting ratio. As I add in paint, I typically start out with a little polyacrylic in the cup to thin the acrylics out when mixing. If I find that I've put in more paint than I actually needed, it gets thinned with poly. 3-to-1 is a good starting point for your pouring medium, but don't be afraid to add more of each as needed. I've run into different levels of thickness for the base paints, so depending on how thin or thick your base starts out, it may change your ratio slightly. I've done a series on cell activators in the past. For this project, I went with one of the recipes I introduced in those videos. It is a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio of Floetrol, Amsterdam pouring medium, and Lucas Krill pouring medium. To that mix, I add in Minwax pre-stain. For 1 ounce of each medium, or 3 ounces total, I add around 6 to 7 drops of the pre-stain. This is one of my more complex recipes because of the extra pouring mediums used, but I love the cells that it produces. If you do not have these extra pouring mediums on hand, a mix of Floetrol and the pre-stain will work perfectly well. I can leave a link to the cell activator experiments in the description as well for those of you that want to check it out. If you missed my last video, I introduced the idea of clear cell activator. While the majority of what I used in this pour is Mars Black, I did throw the clear in there as well. This pour seemingly took forever to finish. I think I ended up working on this canvas a little over 40 minutes, not including the mixing part. I've tried to speed up a bit during the boring parts. I think I prefer being able to spin a canvas to stretch it out. The way I have my space set up mostly prevents me from spinning a canvas larger than about 14 inches. Being able to move the paint all at once on a spinner definitely has its perks, but it does also limit the control you have over where the paint moves to. I plan on giving a 20 by 20 canvas a whirl on it soon, so we'll see what kind of mess I can make there. My plan for this series is to take you through the mixing steps for each color palette, then create a couple of pours with each set. Right now, the idea is to mix up at least 8 colors from each palette, but that could change based on what reptiles I end up using. If any of you have any suggestions on more reptiles I should look into, let me know in the comments below. I've got a few on deck, but I'm always open to ideas. I've got a couple of really big canvases. Do you guys think I should do a combination pour of all the color palettes at the very end? It would be very busy, but I think it could be a neat experiment. We'll see how much paint is left over at the end of each set, but now that I'm thinking about it more, I think it might just happen. Since I kind of fell behind on painting and editing recently, I'm pretty much posting these pours as I do them. Some color palettes may have more pours than others. I want to try to keep most of them posted together, but I may sneak in a few towards the end that I've done in between. I have 3 pours finished with the Jeweled Chameleon colors, so those are going to be the first in the series. From there, we're moving on to the Mount Henang Dwarf Chameleon. This little dude is a bit more on the pastel side in comparison to the Jeweled Chameleon, but still incredibly colorful. Now that you guys have an idea of what to expect in the series, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of these nature-inspired pours. As of writing this script, the channel is at 423 subscribers. I want to thank those of you that have tuned in. I love being able to share my art with you guys and hopefully give you a few tips and tricks along the way. I'm so happy to have all of you around. I made it my goal to be as open and honest about my methods of acrylic pouring as possible. If any of you ever run into questions about things that you've seen me do on the channel, feel free to ask away. Acrylic paint pouring is a hobby that just about anyone can enjoy. You can make it as complicated or as simple as you like. Every time you drop paint on the canvas, you're creating an original piece of art. Even when using the same exact colors, your results will always be slightly different. Pours can be used as a standalone art piece or transformed into something more. The sky really is the limit when it comes to fluid art. As I said, I have 2 more canvases with this color palette to share with you. Then we'll be moving on to the next reptile. In the meantime, get to experimenting. Take out your paints and start throwing colors together to see what happens. It can be a tedious but extremely rewarding process to create your own custom paint colors. Sometimes you will nail them right off the bat. Other times you may sit and fuss with the color until it turns to mud. Don't be discouraged by the mud. Watch your colors after each edition and see what happens. Keeping each edition small will help you from leaning too far in the wrong color direction. Always keep your color mishaps to the side. Unless they're just full on mud, you can always find another way to put them to use. That's going to be it from me today. Hope to see you next time. Bye!